You're about to hear music that absolutely stunned me when I first heard it. Had Beethoven discovered ragtime? Was he, towards the end of his life, in such a state of musical enlightenment that he stepped into a transcendental time machine and met Scott Joplin? Is this music, in Stravinsky's supposed own words, a pre-echo of the Boogie-Woogie? And if so, how? The music itself is certainly the finest. It comes from the finest movement of the finest piano sonata composed by the finest writer of piano sonatas, Ludwig van Beethoven. It's a sonata made of just two movements. The second movement takes the form of theme and variations, and this particular excerpt comes from the third variation. But even before this variation, there's been vindicators that the music is going jazzy. Am I alone, for example, in thinking this bit from the first movement sounds Joplin-esque? So, why is this? Well, there's two main reasons, and the first is about rhythm. Now, remember, this slow movement is basically in theme and variation form. That means we begin with a theme, and then that musical idea gets interpreted through different variations. The theme itself is slow, graceful, and beautiful. It comes in its major version, and then in a responding minor version. And then the variations begin, each time speeding up and introducing a new rhythmic texture, syncopation. That means we're hitting our main notes, i.e. the bass notes, on the offbeat. The rhythm is swung, and that's already giving it a jazzy feel. With variation 2, the note values get smaller. That means it's faster. There's still a swing in the rhythm. You might even call this variation a shuffle. With variation 3 comes our full Scott Joplin. It's as if we've gone proper boogie-woogie, but again, it's a faster swung rhythm that's giving the music that feel. So, plenty of jazzy rhythms going on, but there's another crucial music element that gives this music its ragtime feel.
Hello my baby, hello my honey, hello my ragtime pal.
Now, first of all, Beethoven is using basic chord patterns here, beloved by composers like Scott Joplin. That means a chunky use of dominant sevenths and diminished chords. So, the harmonic background already has a ragtime feel to it. But there's more, because Beethoven is also peppering the section with blue notes. Now, do see my video on blue harmonics for more on this, but it's important to say these notes would not have been described as blue by Beethoven. Classical composers like Mozart and Beethoven would use notes like this as brief ornamentation to give the music a chromatic sparkle. And here they are marked in blue. So, there's a triple whammy happening here, a combination of syncopated rhythms along with ragtime harmonics, including the addition of blues-style chromatic notes, which makes this music sound, in Stravinsky's supposed words, like a pre-echo of Boogie-Woogie. Now, some would clearly take issue with this description.
The pre-echo of a Boogie-Woogie, which many people seem to feel here, but I really protest because I don't like the Boogie-Woogie and I love this music, you know.
But I think that's a little unfair. Of course Beethoven hasn't invented Boogie-Woogie, but he has moved pretty adjacent to it in musical territory terms. You have to realise this is late Beethoven, very late Beethoven. Not that late. Written only a few years before his death. Music from this period, when Beethoven had been deaf for over 2 decades and had retreated into his own inner world of hearing, is very different from his earlier work. Many contemporaries thought he'd gone mad. They heard music like this very differently to how we hear it today. People thought it was insanity. Beethoven, particularly in this late period, was constantly pushing at new modes of expression, not, I think, by conscious design, but because that's where his inner ear was leading him. Remember, for the last 20 years of his life, Beethoven was no longer hearing music in the actual world, just what was in his own head. Now, that didn't blunt his compositional ability, quite the opposite. It intensified his music, to the point where he could find satisfaction writing in musical territory that we might now term ragtime. Thus, by a rather serendipitous path, Beethoven came to compose Boogie-Woogie. I don't think it's right to say Beethoven invented ragtime piano, but he might accidentally have discovered it 100 years early. Please like and subscribe.